Hello again, witchy people. I am back again for another YouTube Pagan Challenge 2019, the ABC of Mythology. Now, I started off with something very, very local for my A. For my B, I'm going a bit more national, and I'm choosing Britannia. So, Britannia, the goddess, obviously didn't appear until I think it was the 2nd century. She was personified as a goddess. Previous to that, during the between the 4th and the 1st centuries BC, the word Britannia, it was kind of derived from two words, the Latin word Brittonic and the Greek word Britannia, and it kind of these words meant this little cluster of islands, which included Britain and Ireland and I think part of Iceland as well. And it wasn't until the word Britannia came to actually mean Britain until I think it's 43 AD when the Romans invaded and they used the word Britannia. But like I said, she wasn't actually personified as a goddess until the 2nd century. She is what they call self-created. So she is the personification of the female part of Great Britain, the female persona of Great Britain. She has no partner, she has no children, she has no parents, she is self-created. And she's very much a goddess of opposites. She's the goddess of war and the goddess of harmony. She's also the goddess of creativity and spinning wheels, all sorts of things like that, but mostly war, wisdom, harmony, lots. But I think the reason why she became known, or she's become lesser known, is because she was kind of mixed up with Britannia and Brigid, and also the Roman goddess Minerva and the Greek goddess Athena. She's very much like Athena actually, which is weird because Britannia was a Roman name given to her. Now originally she was depicted as this strong woman with a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, and a Roman Corinthian helmet on, with a white dress, quite often bare-breasted. She often had uncovered one breast, and she was this really strong representation of Britain. Caesar didn't like that. I think Caesar had a coin made of him crushing Britannia under his heels. There's Caesar, and he's crushing Britannia. He's standing on her and crushing her. Over the years, of course, she's developed, and certainly by the 3rd century, quite easily, she was depicted as still with the helmet and the spear. She also had the shield. She's quite often depicted as being sat on a rock, and the plumage in her helmet and her dress was red. So she's very much represented by the colour red, but she's also represented by the colour blue. Now, the elements that are associated with Britannia are fire and water. So she is very, very much a goddess of opposites: war, harmony, water, fire, red, blue. Now, obviously, in more modern times, we see Britannia. She used to be in a lot of, nearly all British coins, in fact. She always had this spear, and in 1797, I think it was, something like that, they decided to change her image a little bit and depicted her with a trident, and it was a proper trident spear. It had the 3 prongs with the points on, and also a prong at the bottom base of the handle. And they used this trident to represent Britain's authority over the waves, the strength of the navy, from the song Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. That's where it came from. And so, and in that way, she was very much associated also with Poseidon. But she was sort of like depicted as being sat on this rock, which was a representation of her being a watch, almost like a watchtower, looking out over the seas and keeping her people safe, and keeping watch. And obviously there's also the lion. The lion is her sacred animal, but also the unicorn, which I think is quite strange. Lions aren't actually indigenous to Great Britain, obviously, and a unicorn is a mythical creature. But these are the two animals that are associated most with Britannia. And obviously the lion represents royalty and strength and regality. And the unicorn represents, I don't know what the unicorn represents, it's sort of like the wisdom and love part of her. Obviously the red, like I said, she's represented by red and blue, and the red is kind of like blood and war, and the blue is harmony and peace, and she's very contradictory as our Britannia. Sorry, moving the camera. Like I said, she's, because of the Roman influence and even the Greek influence, she's very much mixed up with Brigantia and Brigid, or Brigid, as some people call them, Brigid, Minerva, Athena. What else can? Oh, her sacred planet, the associated planet is Venus, which I find quite strange. I think it should be the moon, but it's not. She's associated with the planet Venus. And her sacred Sabbath, the Sabbath that we associate with Britannia, is Yule, which kind of makes sense because Britain is quite a cold country. We're up there in the northern hemisphere a bit, so yes, we don't get much of that sun. So she's associated with Yule, which perfect for me. She has several things that also represent her. I mean, when the Romans first depicted Britannia as a goddess, they depicted her with an olive branch in her hand to represent the peace between the Romans and the Britons and the Celts and Hibernia and all of that sort of thing. That's kind of been replaced by mistletoe or fir, as in fir trees. She's can also be represented by the owl and mistletoe. Obviously she has the plumed helmet. She's her sacred colour and gem is silver. She's not represented by any other gemstone. It is just silver. And I think that is mainly because during the 2nd century, when the Romans were, well, they had conquered Britain way back in 43 AD. They conquered us almost completely. It was only the Scots that held out, and the Welsh were pretty good as well. But that was when silver coinage, silver stamped coins were kind of like being used by the Romans. And so Britannia, that this silver coin represented Britannia. And also the colour silver and the metal silver represents Britannia. That's about it, really. I don't think there's anything else. Trident, spear, lion, shield. The shield that's that she's depicted with is often a spiked shield. It has this spike in the centre, which is quite a mean piece of equipment, really. She was a warrior goddess, and yet I think the representation was more, this is a warrior who will fight for the peace of her country and people, and that was the kind of goddess she was depicted as. Because she was a woman, she was very much depicted as being the goddess of all things: war, peace, harmony, wisdom, but craft. And the spinning wheel obviously was another thing that was very much associated with Britannia, as it is with many other goddesses. Like Brigid, quite often you will have the representation of a spinning wheel. So there we go, Britannia in a nutshell. Thanks for watching, witchy people. Bye for now.